Today, we are going to take a look at the importance of character in leadership. Coming up. Personality is what we are and what we do when everybody's watching. But character is what we are and what we do when nobody's watching. You see, personality is what we see on the outside, but character is what we find on the inside of a leader, especially when facing challenges and temptations. You see, when a manager or a CEO of a company, in times of testing, when the economy is struggling and customers are threatening to leave you, the business is hitting the rock bottom, and everyone around you is ready to bribe you. It is at that time where a leader's true character is revealed, or the business is booming. The business is making a whole lot of money, and you are entrusted with a huge sum of money. What do? It is at that time, right at that time, when we can really understand and see the leader's true character. What you do at that time determines your character. This reminds me of Marcus Euster, the CEO of Steinhoff. You remember him? Check this out.
What a difference a day on the markets can make. Just ask Steinhoff International. The South African retail giant lost billions from its market value on the JSE and in Frankfurt after its CEO Marcus Euster quit under a cloud. He's being investigated for evading tax, inflating revenues and hiding bad debt. For years, shareholders may have enjoyed fat dividends, but for Steinhoff, the chickens are coming home to roost. It's a story that could have catastrophic consequences for corporates across Africa. But just how did Steinhoff manage to pull a fast one over investors for so long? In this show, we are going to unpack it and try to examine exactly what happened. It's been a tumultuous week for Steinhoff International. These are the quiet offices of the global furniture retailer in Wynberg, Johannesburg. You would never think these offices are connected into what's turning into a global scandal. Just a week ago, Steinhoff was challenging world furniture giants IKEA for dominance. Now, it has all gone to dust. The broad tale could be told through the share price. It collapsed to a record low of 6 Rand, down 80% in 3 days. The shot that set it off was the abrupt departure of its CEO, Marcus Euster, a South African-born millionaire, until now. This is what the market believes Steinhoff was doing. They set up companies off the balance sheet to obscure losses and inflate earnings. Among them, Campion Capital, controlled by associate of Euster, Southern View Finance, controlled by South African billionaire Christo Wiese, and Genesis Investment Management, controlled by ex-Steinhoff CEO Siegar Schmidt. Steinhoff's complex balance sheet structure duped most investors, including Byron Latta, portfolio manager at Vestact in Johannesburg.
What it seems they were doing was they were creating off-balance sheet entities and putting underperforming assets into those entities, even though essentially, Steinhoff was liable for those entities. So for an example, what they seem to have done is when they bought JD Group, they managed to find a buyer for the 10 billion rand debt book that came along with JD Group.
Well, yesterday, the Financial Sector Conduct Authority had fined former Steinhoff CEO Marcus Jooste 475 million rand for publishing false and misleading financial statements. The company had suffered hefty losses after claims of accounting irregularities had emerged.
Yes, so remember this all began in 2017 when the share price of Steinhoff plunged. Marcus Jooste resigned at that stage, and he has been accused in several reports of accounting fraud, the latest from the FSCA. So let's bring you an excerpt because we spoke to them yesterday. So this is what had just happened, and now we have the reports and the confirmation that Marcus Jooste is dead.
The lack of character will destroy your career or even your life. You see, the future of our society relies upon the character of its leaders. Leaders should be chosen based on character, because character builds trust, and trust builds buy-in, and buy-in builds loyalty. I wish our government could understand this, because this reminds me of a lady, Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula. This is a lady whose leadership and legacy has been tarnished and tainted by lack of character. And that lack of character destroyed her career. Check this out.
Born in Cape Town in 1956 and growing up in the Eastern Cape, Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula is the first Speaker of the National Assembly to be arrested. She resigned as an MP and the Speaker of the House on Wednesday, citing her wish to safeguard the integrity of Parliament. A teacher by profession, Mapisa-Nqakula matriculated from Mount Arthur High School in the then Lady Frere. She played a crucial role in the establishment of the East London Domestic Workers Association in 1982. During the fight against apartheid, she left South Africa and was in exile in the early 80s and had military training as an MK combatant in Angola and the former Soviet Union. Mapisa-Nqakula returned to the country in 1990 after the unbanning of all political formations and the release of political prisoners. Back in the country, she worked for the newly relaunched ANC Women's League as a national organizer and was also elected as a member of its National Executive Committee in 1990. She succeeded Baleka Mbete in 1993 as Secretary General of the ANC Women's League, serving under the late struggle veteran Winnie Madikizela-Mandela. At the 2003 ANC Women's League's 4th National Conference at Nasrec in Johannesburg, Mapisa-Nqakula was elected as the league's president.
It is possible to be great in stature and yet humble and ordinary in the eyes of even those that depend on your leadership.
In government, Mapisa-Nqakula started as a backbencher after the April 1994 elections and chaired Parliament's Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence from 1996 to 2001. The same year, she became the chief whip of the ANC in Parliament. She also served as Deputy Minister of Home Affairs under the late Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. Her rise to the executive started during former President Thabo Mbiki's tenure, and she later became Minister of Correctional Services under former President Jacob Zuma.
And will obey, respect, and uphold the Constitution and all other laws of the Republic, and I undertake to hold my office as minister with honor and dignity.
Mapisa Nqakula was later moved to the Defense and Military Veterans Portfolio in 2012.
So help me God.
Although serving in Parliament without any controversy, she came under fire following the controversial landing of the Gupta family's private jet at Waterkloof Air Force Base in 2013 in a serious security breach.
The recent unauthorized use of the Waterkloof Air Force Base for private purposes.
In the same year, she was also in hot water for using a South African Air Force jet to transport members of her political movement to a meeting in Harare. President Ramaphosa relieved Mapisa Nqakula of her duties as Defense Minister in August of 2021 following the July unrest. It was found that government's response in dealing with the riots was slow. She was later appointed as the Speaker of the National Assembly.
This is particularly an emotional occasion for me. Seated amongst you in those benches during the proceedings and the elections, I sincerely felt humbled to have been nominated as a candidate for the position of Speaker of this august House.
But on Wednesday, the 3rd of April, the curtain closed on her illustrious career. She resigned as the Speaker of the National Assembly and Member of Parliament. On Thursday, she handed herself over to the police and was charged and released on bail of 50,000 rand. She'll be back in court again on the 4th of June. Khatlani, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Yeah. There were red flags that our government neglected, or should I say, our president neglected in as far as Mapisa Nqakula is concerned. I mean, the landing of the private jets, the Gupta's private jet in Waterkloof, the unauthorized landing of those private jets of those Guptas in Waterkloof, and of course, using of the South African Defense Force private jet to fly her friends to Harare meetings. I mean, all those were red flags that our government, or should I say, our president neglected. Even now, as she's facing an arrest, our president still defends her, regarding her as a woman of integrity. How? How is she a woman of integrity? Really? Check this out.
We begin with this story. It is what it is. This is how President Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa has reacted to the corruption charges against Nosiviwe Mapisa Nqakula, the former Speaker of the National Assembly. She's been granted 50,000 rand bail and her case has been postponed to the 4th of June. ENCA senior reporter Spamandle Goke spoke to the president, who says the former National Assembly Speaker should be commended for stepping down.
Can you indulge me on the developments on the arrest of the Speaker and the resignation of the former Speaker, please, Mr. President?
Well, you've seen what has been reported in the news, and it is what it is. And so the process continues in the way that it is unfolding. And the Speaker, the former Speaker, said that she wants to resign, not so much because she's guilty. She's doing it to respect Parliament, the ANC, and the government as a whole. Yeah. So, we should recognize that her level of integrity for our democracy has made her do this. And that should be commended. And that should be applauded. And that's what it is. Thank you so much.
Yeah. It is what it is, right? You see, your talent will take you places and give you top position, but only your character will keep you there. You see, your top position does not build your character, but it reveals it. You see, when all else fails, it is your character that will sustain you or condemn you to the death of either your career, like Nosiviwe Mapisa Nqakula, or the death of your physical body, like Marcus Jooste.
Sitting there in the dock, who could have ever imagined the former Speaker of the National Assembly, Nosiviwe Mapisa Nqakula, now making an appearance as expected in court? It follows a dramatic series of events earlier on today after speculation initially that she'd be handing herself over to police, and then ultimately there was confirmation, as we saw, that movement take place in and outside her house through the Littleton police station. That's where we understand she submitted, she handed herself over to police, and now there is this appearance in court.
In a suburb of South Africa's coastal town Hermanus on Friday, a sense of shock. That's after the apparent suicide here of Marcus Jooste, the former chief executive of Steinhoff. Jooste, who was instrumental in transforming what was a small Johannesburg furniture outfit into a multinational retailer, had been handed a hefty fine for accounting fraud on Wednesday. Police have not released a name, but said that a 63-year-old man had sustained a gunshot wound and died on the way to hospital, and that foul play was not suspected. Local media have identified the deceased as Jooste. Hermanus resident Theo Crano said the community would be very shocked by the incident.
You wonder what went on in the mind of this man walking down this very steep a cliff path down to here, the rocks, hiding behind this massive rock behind me, and then shooting himself. The agony, the pressure that must have driven him to this. And, you know, your mind just goes to the fact that he is a father with children and what happens to his family.
South Africa's Financial Sector Conduct Authority had fined Jooste 475 million rand, or $25.2 million US. That was for publishing false and misleading Steinhoff annual financial statements and annual reports for the 2014 to 2016 years and the 2017 half year. Holes were revealed in the accounts in December 2017, the first sign of an accounting fraud that led to the near collapse of the retail group. Steinhoff, majority owner of South African and European discount retailers Pepkor and Pepco, has suffered hefty losses and a stream of lawsuits since then.
So, let me hear your comment below, and of course don't forget to subscribe so that I keep on making these beautiful leadership videos.